It was our anniversary that day. But my husband, Harry, didn't come home until the morning because he said he was busy with work. Spending our anniversary alone was a first for me. I ate the cold cake I had prepared, cutting it into small pieces while watching a lively variety show. Maybe he's cheating. With that thought, the cake I brought to my mouth tasted like sand. If he really is cheating, I couldn't quite tell if I was supposed to feel sad or angry. After supporting each other for so long, to think of betrayal just as we were starting a new chapter of our lives together, I wondered what kind of feelings I should harbor. One thing was for sure, what is Harry thinking at his age? If he is cheating, I'll definitely make him regret it. Alone in the quiet night, I stared at the half-eaten cake and made up my mind. Looking for something that could be definitive proof of his infidelity, I rummaged through Harry's room and saw several documents sticking out from the bookshelf. Casually pulling a few out, I found something unexpected. A divorce paper, and this is. What I found was a divorce form and a marriage form, only filled out with Harry's name. I almost tore up those two papers in the moment, but quickly calmed myself down. I will never forgive you. I'll make sure you regret what you've done. My name is Emily. 23 years ago, when I gave birth to my son, I was young and had planned to go back to work after some of the early childcare, but my husband, Harry, didn't support the idea of me resuming work. In Harry's view, it was ingrained that men should work outside and women should take care of the home. It would be a lie to say I had no desire to be a stay-at-home mom at the time, so I accepted his suggestion and quit my job. My son's name is Leon. Living up to his strong name, Leon grew into a kind and sturdy young man. He graduated from the university he wished to attend and secured a job, which was a relief to me. Once Leon moved out to live on his own, our home became a place that evoked a mix of loneliness and a sort of happiness at sudden moments. I usually sit on the sofa where Leon used to sit and read a book. I read mystery novels that I couldn't concentrate on when I was busy, and when I tire of reading, I close my eyes and sink deep into the sofa. The curtains, left open, flutter in the gentle breeze, carrying a faint scent of osmanthus. Ah, it's that season again. It was around this time of the year that I married Harry. The autumn is starting, isn't it? In the quiet living room, I find myself smiling at no one in particular. One holiday, I was cleaning the entrance early in the morning. The air was crisp and getting a bit cold, but because I was still dressed for summer, I ended up feeling quite chilled. When I returned inside, Harry was about to close the bathroom door in his pajamas, so I asked quickly, "Is bread okay for breakfast?" To which he responded with an ambiguous, "Oh." I placed the sliced bread on the cutting board, topped it with divided ham and cheese, and threw it into the toaster. Just as I put the kettle on the stove top, Harry's phone, left on the dining table, suddenly started vibrating without any warning. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The phone persisted, as if calling out to its owner. I wasn't particularly concerned as I took the toast, now lightly browned, out of the toaster and laid it on the plates at the table. The phone was still ringing. Its screen was turned down, and I didn't feel like looking at it, though I couldn't rule out it being a work call. After a while, the ringing stopped, and at the same time, Harry came back from the bathroom and began washing his hands in the kitchen, which I immediately admonished. Hey, don't wash your hands in the kitchen.
Huh? Oh.
Harry seemed groggy and barely coherent in the conversation, drying his hands on his pajama shirt before taking his seat. I handed him the morning paper I had retrieved from the mailbox while cleaning the entrance earlier. Harry cracked a smile and said, "Thank you." I've always liked his appreciation for these little things. Then I took my seat and sipped my steaming hot coffee. By the way, your phone was ringing non-stop earlier. Who was it from?
Huh?
Harry quickly closed the newspaper he was spreading and glanced swiftly at the phone screen he had placed face down on the table. Then, with a panicked look, he said to me,
Hey, you didn't look at my phone, did you?
"Huh? No, but who was it from?"
Who? I'm in the middle of an important work discussion. There's some info I'd rather keep private.
Harry said that with a slightly annoyed expression as he quickly stuffed toast into his mouth, and he retreated to his room without much attention to the newspaper. Why is he angry, I wonder? As I pondered, placing the dishes in the sink, my phone rang. I picked up my continuously charging phone from the kitchen corner, carefully unplugged it, and held it to my ear. The call was from my son, Leon. "What's up?" I asked, and Leon replied, "Just checking if you're okay." I could imagine him blushing over the phone. Isn't he supposed to have a girlfriend instead of calling his mom on a holiday morning? I was about to ask, but then I thought about Harry's earlier behavior and decided to tell Leon about it as it happened.
That's probably Dad cheating on me.
Leon joked, and I couldn't help but laugh. Afterward, we talked about how Leon was struggling with cooking for himself since living alone, and I promised to email him my personal recipes later. After a bit of thought, I started typing the recipe for minestrone on my smartphone, a favorite of both Harry and Leon. Use fresh tomatoes, not canned. The soup, which uses some consommé but primarily relies on the flavor of vegetables, was first praised by Harry as delicious when I made it at the beginning of our marriage. While I was frantically typing on my unfamiliar smartphone, Harry silently left the house. I heard the front door close. The sound of the car engine revving up and driving away gave me an odd sense of unease. Through a gap in the curtains, I just stared at the taillights of Harry's car as he drove off. It was another day. That day was our anniversary. But Harry didn't come home until morning, saying he was busy with work. It was my first experience spending our anniversary alone, eating the cold cake I had prepared while watching a lively variety show. Maybe he's cheating? With that thought, the cake I tasted felt like sand. If he really was cheating, I wasn't sure whether to feel sad or angry. Having supported each other for so long, and just as we were about to start a new life, just the two of us, what feelings should I harbor if this was indeed betrayal? One thing was certain: what was Harry thinking at his age? If he is cheating, I'll definitely make him suffer. In the quiet night, alone, I stared at the half-eaten cake and made my decision. That was the day my plan began. When Harry took a shower, I immediately checked his WhatsApp on his smartphone. The screen was locked, but after seeing how Harry unlocked his pattern lock a few times, I deciphered it was a very simple spiral pattern within a few days. Unaware, Harry carelessly left his poorly secured smartphone around the house, giving me the chance to sneak peeks over several days. I searched for any incriminating evidence of infidelity. I proceeded carefully so as not to alert Harry, and finding suspicious conversation content, I struggled not to show the tightening in my chest and the quiet anger rising within. I maintained a poker face as I served dinner as usual. Tonight's dish was minestrone, a favorite of both Harry and me. Usually, I use fresh tomatoes, but tonight I used canned tomatoes that were on sale from abroad, and I added more consommé than usual.
This tastes better than usual, this minestrone.
Really? I'm glad. I smiled. Several years ago, when Harry was warned by the doctor during a health check to cut down on his salt intake, I took it seriously and subtly reduced the salt in our meals. However, today, I loaded the food with as much artificial seasoning and salt as possible, drawing out only the flavors. Throughout the meal, Harry kept checking his phone. While I sipped the soup, I stared coldly at him, but he didn't seem to notice. "You seem very busy lately. I'm worried about your health."
Well, there's work, but there's also socializing with colleagues. I've been going out for drinks more often with clients lately.
I see.
Honestly, there are days I don't really want to go, but it's unavoidable. It's part of networking. I guess I felt a bit more relaxed since Leon started living on his own.
A bit more relaxed. I mulled over this in my mind. Is it normal to feel relaxed and start cheating once your child is independent? I held back from retorting and said something I didn't mean. That's tough. After dinner, while pretending to be engrossed in a not-so-interesting variety show, I continued the routine of sneakily checking Harry's phone as soon as he went to take a shower. By gradually checking his phone interactions, I discovered he was involved with 2 women. While Harry was at work, I decided to record details about these 2 women in a notebook. I could hear the chirping of birds in the distance. On a Wednesday, under a clear blue sky, I sat pondering, clicking my pen repeatedly. One of Harry's affairs, a woman named Marissa, appeared to be the receptionist at a business partner's company. Some of their messages were genuinely work-related, but given the frequency of Harry's messages, she seemed to be the main affair. Marissa is 27 years old. Considering Harry is 51, I wondered if he was genuinely taken seriously by her, and it even felt pathetic. Yet, the image of Harry leering at a young woman who could be his daughter made my skin crawl with disgust. The other woman, recently met, named Lydia, seemed to have met Harry while out drinking with colleagues. She is a divorced woman who contacts Harry excessively often, sending messages and calls incessantly without waiting for his reply, which I found quite bothersome. Harry seemed to want to end things with Lydia, but it appeared he couldn't manage to break it off cleanly, and their exchanges were filled with confusion. As I was searching for something decisive to prove his infidelity, I rummaged through Harry's room. Casually pulling out a few papers from the bookshelf, I found something unexpected. A divorce form, and this is. What I found were a divorce form and a marriage registration form filled out only with Harry's name. I nearly tore those 2 papers up in a moment, but quickly calmed myself. Perhaps Harry wants to marry the young woman, Marissa. However, the situation with Lydia, who is divorced, seems complicated, and Harry himself must be pondering what to do. His selfishness, affecting both me and his lovers, absolutely infuriated me. I will never forgive you. I'll make sure you regret what you've done. The next Sunday, I sat in a cafe near the station, sipping black iced coffee, squinting as if to confirm the pounding of my heart. As the automatic door of the cafe opened, a strong scent of perfume spread inside, and a woman in a purple dress with long blonde hair stood before me, greeted slightly, then took her seat.
Nice to meet you. I'm Lydia.
Thank you for coming.
I was a bit surprised, but it's okay. Yes.
Lydia glanced at the menu briefly before flagging down a passing waiter to order an iced coffee. She seemed a bit uneasy, wiping her hands on her lap and rubbing them several times. Despite Lydia's flashy appearance, she seemed rather timid and unsettled, I thought. Did you know Harry is married?
Yes, that's right. He said things aren't going well with his wife, and maybe. Was I being deceived all along?
Lydia, I'm considering divorcing Harry.
Oh,
I continued gently, careful not to arouse any suspicion in Lydia. My marriage to Harry was nearly at a breaking point, and the divorce could be filed at the office any moment now. I pulled out the divorce form with Harry's name filled in from my bag and laid it in front of Lydia. Lydia's eyes widened as she stared at it, then she fixed her gaze on me. I have no lingering feelings for Harry, but I can't forgive the fact that he cheated. Don't you think so too, as a woman?
that makes sense, yes.
So, I want proof that you are serious about Harry. After I file this divorce form, I want you to file a marriage registration form with Harry. Lydia looked shocked and was speechless for a moment. See, these are Harry's actual handwriting, aren't they? He must have been serious about marrying you. That's why he prepared this. Lydia covered her mouth with both hands, then exclaimed loudly, I'm going to be happy. And I forced a smile, though it felt grotesque. Harry really got himself tangled up with a strange woman. Lydia happily hugged the marriage form and said, I'll have a relative witness the form before I submit it. And then she left. Just before she left, Lydia asked me seriously if Leon and I could witness the marriage form, which wiped the fake smile off my face, but I politely declined, and she twisted her lips into a smile, saying, Surely not? After submitting the divorce form, I called Leon. I told him about Harry's affair, the divorce form submission, and how I had nearly forced Lydia to file a marriage registration form with Harry. Leon's loud laughter came through the phone. Hearing that laughter, any remnants of guilt in my heart seemed to dissolve.
Mom, you really do some crazy things. But I think it's good. I won't see Dad anymore. I didn't think he was that kind of person.
Thank you. Hearing your voice made me feel relieved.
Is there anything I can do? I'm here to help if there's anything.
I declined his offer and thanked Leon, then hung up and decided to take the train back to my parents' house. When I arrived home after transferring trains, my elderly parents greeted me with surprised faces. My father, who had retired, had taken up gardening near our house, and unbeknownst to me, it had grown significantly, with a large container of vegetables like those used by wholesalers placed in front of our house. When things had settled down, my parents served coffee, and I began to tell them everything and discussed what to do next. At first, my parents were very upset and couldn't believe Harry had cheated, but eventually they accepted the situation and suggested concrete plans like moving back home to live with them. My father, with a calm expression, said, Leon is no longer a child, Emily. You should do what you feel is right. and I was happy that he agreed I could live at their home. A few days later, Harry contacted me after finishing an overnight job. I had already verified with his workplace that this overnight job was a lie, and he was probably staying at the younger mistress, Marissa's house. When Harry returned home to find nobody there, he called me, puzzled.
The house isn't clean, and the laundry is still hanging. What's going on?
Oh, I called your office and they said you were on leave. I thought maybe you were cheating somewhere.
What? Hey, what are you talking about?
I spat back, knowing everything, and told him about all that had happened. From the other end of the phone, I could visualize Harry's agitation. My mother, realizing I was on the phone with Harry, stopped cooking and looked worried, so I smiled reassuringly at her, though she grimaced in difficulty.
Anyway, why don't you come home? Let's talk. Suddenly talking about divorce. I don't understand.
That's true. When unexpected things unfold surprisingly fast, anyone would be confused and flustered, and then feel choked up. If you hadn't betrayed me, I could have lived without ever knowing this feeling. Year after year, as we endured the hot summer and began to feel a hint of coolness, the scent of osmanthus wafting from nowhere reminded me of Harry and my anniversary. We started living together with the beginning of fall, but this year it seems to have become the season of endings. I find myself thinking these romantic thoughts.
Anyway, come back home. We'll talk then. It's all right.
Not understanding what he meant by, "It's all right," I couldn't help but chuckle wryly. Without hesitation, I started making the next arrangements by contacting Harry's two mistresses. Then, next Sunday, there was Lydia, Harry, Marissa, and me. An unusual scene unfolded with the four of us sitting around a table. I had lured Lydia to our home under the pretext of discussing the division of assets when I divorced Harry. As for Marissa, I had never contacted her before, so I used the number I took from Harry's phone to say directly, "I'm Harry's wife. There's something we need to discuss. Can you come over to our house?" Lydia, sitting next to Marissa, seemed distracted by her presence and greeted her tentatively with, "Nice to meet you." Marissa, understanding why she was there, kept her lips tight and looked down. Being the youngest there, Marissa nervously gripped the thin lace cardigan she was wearing. It was a pleasantly sunny autumn day, not cold, but Marissa rubbed her arms over the cardigan several times. "I'll just get straight to the point, Marissa, Lydia. You two have been having an affair with my husband, right?" Lydia, with her flamboyant makeup, widened her eyes and glanced at Marissa. Harry, looking pale and being as quiet as a mouse, kept his head down and stared at the grain of the table. "So, the thing is, he deceived both of you about divorcing someday to remarry. Both of you simultaneously." Neither Lydia nor Marissa knew that the other was also Harry's mistress until they were gathered here. Marissa, likely expecting to push me towards divorce, was shocked to find not only another mistress, but that Harry had already filed a marriage registration with Lydia.
What? You're already divorced from your wife and married to someone else?
Wait a minute. What's going on? You were cheating with someone else too?
Wait. Don't all talk at once. My head's about to explode. Let's just calm down for a moment. Emily, get everyone something to drink.
"What? I'm not your wife anymore? You make it yourself." Stunned by my response, Harry clutched his chest and grimaced in pain. After a few seconds, he began apologizing profusely with his forehead touching the living room floor. What's the point of such a cheap apology?
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry.
I'm kind of over it, but you'll still have to pay a decent amount of alimony.
Ah, know that.
I smiled and continued. I'll also be claiming damages from you, Marissa, and Lydia. Of course, I've already consulted a lawyer, and if you two decide to sue Harry for damages, that's your business and doesn't involve me. Afterward, Marissa coldly berated him, and Lydia looked around, unsure of what to do, restless in her actions.
So the story about his wife cheating and being close to divorce was a lie too.
Know that.
To think I shared such a boring man and such boring moments.
Marissa cradled her head in self-mockery and sighed softly. From a distance, I observed Harry and the others, thinking how ugly it all was. There were still things I needed to do. I felt that my life would not be pleasant unless I properly demanded damages from Harry and his mistresses. Marissa, perhaps indifferent by then, readily agreed to the compensation claims facilitated through the lawyer. Marissa, as she declared, also demanded alimony from Harry, who until the end hoped I would agree to a reduction in the claim, but I insisted on full payment without mercy. Harry decided to sell the house he owned based on Lydia's suggestion and use the proceeds for the payment. This way, Harry managed to prepare the alimony but lost his place to live and had to move to Lydia's parents' house. Although the marriage registration with Lydia was submitted without his consent, if he were to revoke this as well, he risked Lydia demanding alimony, and it seemed Harry no longer had the financial leeway for that. I later heard from relatives that since living with Lydia's parents, Harry had been under considerable restraint. Since their remarried life began from an affair, Lydia worried Harry might cheat again and would call his workplace daily to confirm he went to work and insisted he come straight home after work. Moreover, her family home is in a very rural area, lacking even street lights and corner stores along the way home from the station. On weekends, Harry was used to fix up the old family home and was exploited by his elderly in-laws, completely losing his freedom. It was rather pitiful that Harry wasn't even allowed to have a smartphone, and he was only given the bare minimum pocket money. Marissa and I completely cut ties with Harry and each returned to our own lives. Since Marissa was a business contact of Harry's, the affair became a rumor at his workplace too, and I heard through the grapevine that he was feeling isolated there. But all that was no longer my concern. I was now relaxing back at my parents' home, helping with the farm work. Before I was married, I used to help my father with his hobby of gardening, and now we were producing enough to sell to the local supermarket, keeping me busy and fulfilled. Occasionally, Leon visits home. On some evenings, we dine together, and I decided to make minestrone. Using the tomatoes my parents harvested at the end of summer before they spoiled, throwing them into a large pot. "You make such sophisticated dishes," my mother remarked curiously as she watched me cook, but I assured her with a smile, "I'm sure you'll like it." I laid the finished dish on the table, and seeing everyone enjoy it made me smile uncontrollably. The soup, low in salt, but rich in vegetable flavors, might not have been the most stimulating, but it felt like it gently merged into our bodies.